Hey, Dutch Uncle George here. And on my last video, I mentioned something about we were talking about pheromone axing, and I said instead of giving up showering, maybe it'd be better to give up certain behaviors like being needy or being possessive and acting really jealous. So I wanted to go into those things a little bit more because there's certain behaviors that just kill attraction. And those are probably among the biggest. And they're really two sides of the same coin. Neediness, where it's like, oh, baby, what can I do for you? What do you need me to do? Oh, please, baby, spend time with me. Oh, please, oh, please, oh, please. And then you have, where have you been? Who have you been with? You need to call me every 5 minutes to tell me where you're at. You need to always keep me informed. You may never talk to another man under any circumstances for anything. Okay, like I said, they're both sides of the same coin. We have kind of the needy, wussy guy, and then we have the overly aggressive, jealous rage dude. And they're both same part of the same coin, which is really lack of self-esteem and lack of confidence, because one goes at that lack from a position of fear, the needy guy, and the other goes at it from a position of anger, the jealous rage dude. And neither of them is good. And they, like I said, they signal that lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, and that is a real attraction killer. Really for anybody, if whether we're talking about heterosexual male female, whether we're talking about gay or lesbian relationships, it's going to be a major problem for you if this is kind of your default setting. And so I want to talk about different ways you can approach things and hopefully start to turn the tide against these types of behaviors. If these things stem from a really deep-seated fear of abandonment or something like that may have started out in early childhood, maybe a parent left, or maybe one of your first relationships cheated on you or something like that, maybe it'd be a good idea to talk to a counselor about that sort of stuff. Because if this is really a hardcore emotional trigger for you and you feel like you have to go overboard on being needy and clingy to your significant other, or you need to keep an eye on them all the time out of fear that they're going to cheat on you, those are some issues that probably need to be dealt with. If they're just kind of, they kind of scratch at your surface and they kind of get you when you're, in your down moments, that's something maybe you can handle for yourself. And that's why I want to give you some tools to perhaps deal with that. So let me start with number one. A lot of times I'm going to be talking about from the standpoint of straight male-female relationships, but it really applies to other types of sexual orientations as well. But let's start with that needy person. And, a lot of times guys will get fixated on a particular woman, and they've kind of blown her up in their mind as this perfect goddess that she's the perfect woman for them. They are lusting after her. They feel like they're going to live their lives with this person. They've created this whole fantasy about her before they've even gone on the first date. And this is where this neediness and this need to try to please them and try to go overboard on making them happy in any way you possibly can, and putting your needs behind theirs to an extreme extent. And again, always being like, please, baby, spend time with me. Oh, why haven't you been with me more? Oh, the moany, whiny, needy, clingy dude is not an attractive look. And so let's think about why you might be that overboard on this type of thing. First of all, let's think about it in terms of you've created this, this fantasy woman out of this real woman who's, she's not that fantasy. She isn't the perfect person that you've made her out to be. And if she rejects you, if she's pushing you away, that's kind of a sign that she's not the perfect person for you. So right there, you kind of take a step back, and if you're feeling that you have to be with her and she has to spend time with you and she has to love you, take a step back, start looking at things that you might not like about her. And I mean, really focus on finding stuff you don't like about her. Make her a real human being again. Maybe she's got, a pimple somewhere, or, start with something small like that, a small imperfection, but see her as a flawed human being. Then it kind of takes that edge off of, oh my God, she's perfect. I have to have her. She has to have me. Relax a little bit. The other thing I would say is learn to let go of it. If you're going in to, ask somebody out on a date, or if you're already dating that person, and you have this huge thing built up in your mind that you're going to, take them out to this fancy restaurant or whatever it is, you go to the movies, go to a concert, whatever it is, and you think, oh, they're going to love it, they're going to love me, they're going to want to have so much sex with me, it'll be awesome. And for whatever reason, they ain't into it. And then you're crushed. It's like your big plan is out the door. And instead of making plans based around impressing her and getting her to like you, or getting her to want to have sex with you, start with doing what you enjoy. And here again, if she ain't into what you enjoy, she's probably not the right person for you. So you say, okay, what do I want to do that I would invite her to go along with me? Maybe you say, okay. If it's, you haven't dated yet, if you're trying to ask her out on a date, maybe you do something like, so, hey, I was going to go over here and shoot some pool. You want to go with me? It doesn't have to be this big built-up thing. And I recommend you keep it to something simple that you enjoy doing. Not going to the most expensive restaurant in town, not going to some concert where the tickets are, $300 a piece or something like that. Do something simple. Say, hey, I was going to go take a walk in the park. It's a nice day. You want to come along? Something simple. Keep it easy. And that way, if she says no, well, then you can still go do whatever that thing you wanted to do anyway. Just go do it. You just do it by yourself. And who knows what might happen. Maybe you go for a walk in that park, and you meet somebody else. Could happen. So you need to be able to let go of these preconceived plans and preconceived notions of what is going to happen with this person. The other thing I would recommend is bearing in mind, like I just said, you might meet somebody else in the park. There are a lot of other women, as they say, a lot of fish in the sea. There are a lot of other women out there. And just because one of them didn't like you or didn't want to go out with you, or whatever, it didn't work with them, there's tons of other women out there. There's tons of other women. They're all different. They all have different interests. They all have different things they're attracted to. And just because it didn't work out with one, or one didn't find you attractive, or one didn't want to be with you, doesn't mean there's not going to be somebody else out there who really, really does want to be with you. So try to keep that in mind. Try not to get too focused in on one person. And this brings me to one thing that historically has been recommended as a virtue, and that is persistence. Okay. The problem with persistence is not that, in and of itself, sticking to it and trying and keep putting in effort. The problem with persistence is it gets misconstrued into persistence after somebody shot you down. And I mean, they've shot you down cold. There isn't any room for wiggle there. They don't want to be with you. They don't want to go out with you, whatever it is. No, they're done. That's it. You need to let that go. When you say, well, I have to be persistent, well, what you think is persistent, which is constantly bugging them to go out with you, or constantly begging them to have sex with you, or whatever it is, your persistence is perceived as they're needy and creepy. They see it as needy and creepy, and it's not a turn on. So persistence to a point, persistence with continuing to look for people to date, yes. Persistence with the same person who has continually told you no and is starting to get pissed off about it, let it go. Move on to something else, because the more energy and time you put into something that is always going to be a no-go is the time you won't be putting into potentially finding somebody that is a good match for you. So this gets me to the other side of the coin, which is jealous, possessive guy. Okay, this is typically where you already have been dating a little bit at least, and maybe you're in a relationship, and maybe it's exclusive. Nothing spells a lack of confidence and a lack of self-esteem as wanting to know where she is every moment of every day, freaking the hell out if some guy looks at her with a certain amount of appreciation, freaking out on her if she happens to say something nice to another guy, no matter how innocent it might be. Those things we just talked about with being the needy guy also apply here, but even more importantly, you need to be able to control that anger, that rage that comes up. And this, I think, gets into a little bit more where maybe some professional counseling would come into play. But there are various ways you can kind of control things. One is take some deep breaths. Okay? Take some deep breaths, talk yourself through it, say, okay, what does this actually mean? And let's take it from the worst case scenario. Let's say she is cheating on you. Okay, you find out she's cheating on you. Yeah, okay, that's humiliating. Maybe it's, disrespectful, whatever it is. But again, like I said with the needy thing, it's time to let it go. If you know she's cheating on you, you either forgive her and try to figure out why she cheated on you and do things to make the relationship better, or end the relationship. Usually the second option is better, because even if you think you can forgive her, if you've been tending towards that jealous rage thing, it's always going to be pushing your buttons. So maybe better just make a clean start with somebody else and move on. But controlling your rage, taking some deep breaths, walking yourself through it, say, okay, didn't work out, I'm going to move on to the next thing. And I want to share with you an experience I had, kind of a thought that really changed my dating life several years ago. And that was when I broke up with my second wife. We were getting divorced. And one day I was having a pity party, and I was like, oh, why me? My relationship is ending. Why do all of my relationships end? Because, again, this is my second wife, so I already had lost a first wife and some other girlfriends in between. And I'm sitting there wallowing in my misery, and, it's like, will my relationships always end? And the answer came immediately and loudly in my own head. It's like, yes, you dumbass. All relationships end. They all end one way or another. Somebody dies. Somebody moves out of the country for work or whatever. Somebody cheats. There's tons and tons of reasons why a relationship ends. But in the best case scenario, you die at some point. It goes on for many, many years. You have the relationship for, a large chunk of your life, and then one or both of you die. So yeah, all of your relationships are going to end. So my advice on that, and the same advice I kind of gave myself in that moment, was, okay, all relationships are going to end, one reason or another. So the best I can do is enjoy the relationship while I have it. And that's the way I've tried to live my life since that point. And for the most part, it's worked out pretty well. I really haven't had much in the way of jealousy or fear of losing a relationship since then. I've been much more confident when it comes to women, back when I was still dating and not in a committed relationship. And it just took a whole lot of pressure off. So something to think about. All your relationships are going to end at some point. So just be prepared for that. Enjoy them while they last. And when the time comes, let it go. So that's it for this video. I hope you got something valuable out of it. Thank you for watching.